Hi, this is a video review of the Zebralight SC600w Mark IV high intensity flashlight. I think I got that right. Anyway, this is a light that Zebralight has just released along with a bunch of other new releases for their 18650 based lights. And they all have that new user interface, which is it's identical to the old Zebralight interface, which for those of you that have them is really nice, but it missed out on one key thing, and that is the ability to program all of the modes. So they have the standard group, which operates just like the old Zebralights. Plus they have new groups they've introduced that allows you to customize the level for any of the modes. So you can program it instead of just going from low, medium, high, which is how they traditionally operate. You can do high, medium, low. You can do low, low, low. You can do medium, medium, medium. Any kind of mode you would like in any particular slot, you can program in. I won't go into big details about that because it's a little more complex in the programming, but I will show you how I set up my light. Anyway, this light comes in a few different variants. I chose the high intensity emitter version, which is an XHP35 high intensity LED. And the reason why I chose that one is because I wanted a little more throw out of the Zebralights. They tend to be rather floody lights, and I wanted this one more for a strictly outdoor use, so I wanted a little bit more throw out of it. So the high intensity emitter gives you around 20,000 candela in throw, which is pretty good compared to, say, traditional Zebralights. They also come in a regular version, XHP35 LED, which is more of the traditional Zebralight beam, a bit more floody, kind of a better sort of general purpose flashlight. And then they also have a version which uses an XHP 50.2 emitter, which is a very floody one. It has much higher output, but has a much floodier beam. I didn't think that one had as much practical applications because it's somewhat limited in the amount of throw you can get. It produces a great wall of light, but for outdoor use, that's not as useful. So anyway, I chose the high intensity emitter, and I'm not displeased with my choice at all. It produces a very nice beam. It's not as throwy as you would think compared to other lights that use high intensity emitters. It has quite a bit of corona, which is a gradual move from the hot spot out through the corona here, and then it has a wide spill as well, about an 80-degree spill. So it actually is very useful as a general purpose light as well, indoors and out. And yeah, I'm glad I picked this version. So things I really like about it are the tint. It has a very nice 4200 Kelvin tint, or color temperature, which is what I measured it to be, which is slightly on the warm side of neutral. And I kind of like that. So it has a, let's compare it just to, say, a standard cool white. I'll just set it up to about the same output. All right, so that's around the same output. This is a cool white, and this is the Zebralight SC600w. And you can see it's a lot warmer than a cool white. Now, if we switch it out to, say, a neutral, another Zebralight light, it's still brighter than, this one's around 4500 Kelvin. And you can see it's actually still a fair bit warmer than the sort of what most people would consider kind of dead center neutral. And if you compare it to, say, another Zebralight here, which is the SC52w, which tends to be on the warmer side of Zebralights. Let me just pump up the brightness a bit. You can see it's actually fairly close to what Zebralight used to do in their neutral lights. And if you compare it to a Emitter 219B emitter, which is kind of the let me just turn down, let's try to put that around the same level. If you compare it to the Emitter 219B 4000 Kelvin emitter, which is kind of the gold standard for neutral white light, you can see it's very close. And the tint on it, there's a little bit of green in the corona on the Zebralight. There obviously isn't with the Emitter, but you can see it's actually very good. And so that's one of the things I really like about it, is the tint. Of course, there's also the programmability. And as I mentioned before, you can have different mode groups. Without getting into detail, I can select a mode group by pressing 6 times, and that selects my G6 mode group. And now when I cycle through modes, instead of low, medium, high, I set them to all lows. So I have like the 3 moonlight levels here. And then as my brighter modes, which you can select with double clicks, it really only goes up to say lower medium modes. And I like this I like being able to program it like this for nighttime use, so that I don't accidentally blind myself by, if I go back to my regular group, which is clicking 5 times, go back to my regular group. If I just clicked once, boom, I'd be in a high mode. And that could blind you in the middle of the night. So that's why I kind of like the fact it's fully programmable now, and you can set it up the way you want. And it's very easy to switch from like my sort of traditional outside use, which would be my high modes, kind of the traditional Zebralight interface. And then I can, if I'm using it indoors in the middle of the night, I'll just click it 6 times and that'll switch to another mode group, which I use for all the low modes. And then you can also program in a third one. They call it G7 group. I haven't really played around with that too much. I might set it to sort of all high modes or something like that. Like all the Zebralight 18650 flashlights, they come with a very good thermal regulation. So if you put it on high and you leave it there, it has about, I measured it about 1200 lumens on high. The Zebralight lists the specs at 1400 lumens. I got a little bit lower in mine. I'm not sure if that's just normal deviation or whether maybe because the tint on mine is a little warmer than what Zebralight spec'd it at. For whatever reason, I get around 1200 lumens for high, and it will last about 2 or 3 minutes before the light starts heating up enough to cause the thermal protection to kick in, and it very gradually dims. And it'll dim down to about 500 lumens or so after a few minutes. If you just leave it tail standing. Of course, if you're holding it to absorb the heat, you're acting as a heat sink in that case, and the light will tend to stay on a higher level for a much longer period of time. But if you're just leaving it alone, rather than overheat, get too hot either to hold or get too hot to perhaps damage electronics, it'll very gradually step down. You actually don't even notice it. It just very gradually ramps down, and it'll settle around 500 lumens for an indoor temperature. I used it outside in the wintertime, and obviously doesn't step down outside at all because it's so cold. Things I don't like about it. Really, my only complaint is the pocket switch here. It's just a snap-on kind. You know, the quality's okay. It works, but it bites right into the knurling, and so it can be a little bit of a shredder of pants if you, I don't know, if you rip it out too quickly or something. I think they could have done a better job. I guess you can, you see, there doesn't really be any way to settle it. I guess you could put it in there, but then you got the knurling there too. I prefer it to, say, the old SC52s, and they used to do it so that it would settle in a nice round pocket there. And in that way, it wouldn't tear clothing or anything when you pulled it out. But for some reason, they didn't do that in this kind, and it's okay. But I think they've done better pocket clips in the past. It takes a 18650 battery, as I mentioned. I'm using a Samsung 30Q battery in this one. You have to use flat tops. They have to be unprotected flat tops because they can't be much more than 65 millimeters in length or they won't fit. This is a flat top, and you can see there's only about 1 millimeter clearance in there. If you had any kind of protection circuit, it would be too long to fit in the light, and the battery tube wouldn't make contact with the negative end. It uses these pogo pins, by the way. It has them in the head and tail. They've improved the pogo pin design now in these variants. They use 6 pogo pins in the head now. People were getting problems with the positive terminals getting crushed a little bit in previous models, but they've spread out the weight now and centered it more around the edge of the positive terminal now. So I don't find any problem with the battery terminals getting crushed at all. I did notice you do have to keep things clean. So, you know, I think it's probably a good idea when you change the battery, wipe off the negative, or wipe off the body end of the body tube here, and that will keep it clean and making good contact with the tail cap here, so you get a good current going through. Because it uses a fairly high current, I would say probably around 5 or 6 amps out of a battery, you do need to have a fairly good path there, or you won't get the high outputs. So overall, I really like the light. I think this is certainly one of my, well, okay, it's my newest light, so it's got to be my favorite light, right? It is one of, I think, my favorite Zebralights though. I still like the Zebralight SC600w just because it has such a bright output on a AA battery. Obviously not as bright as which you can get on a 18650 battery, but I still like it for that. And I like the pocketability of the Zebralight SC52s just because they're so small. They can fit in a pocket quite nicely. But you know, this one isn't too big. It does count. They do have 18650 lights, the SC64s, and they're a little smaller. But you know, this one actually is good in the hand. I like it for that. It doesn't seem too big. So I'm kind of glad I got it. It's a little bigger, so it gives you a little bit more heat sink for operating the light on high longer. And I'm kind of glad I got this. You got the extra throw with the high intensity emitter, of course, which is the reason why I got it. Anyway, I'll just show you some night shots briefly, and then we'll wrap up the video. Thanks for watching. So you can see there is quite a bit of throw on this light. It's a good general purpose outdoor light, I find. Has good throw. It also has a good flood to it, so you can see stuff around you. The video doesn't capture that very well, but in person, it's very useful outdoors. I think I got just the right light for a general purpose one. It won't throw like a C8 will, but it will throw out to, you know, 100 meters or so very comfortably. And it's got the multiple modes. I use medium when I'm walking usually, and then you can kick it up to high when you want to see stuff in the distance. All right, thanks for watching.